Ever feel like, the system that's supposed to be helping families sometimes does the opposite?
Yeah.
Today's deep dive is like, whoa, talk about tough questions. We're talking parental rights, state agencies, the works. 2 cases, actually.
It's going to be good. 2 for 1.
Gloria Shalders, first up, moved from Texas to Massachusetts, ends up in psychiatric facilities, not once, but multiple times.
Seriously?
And get this, based on reports from her own parents. Talk about family drama.
Oh, that adds a whole other layer. So during all this, her parents go and file for guardianship of the kids.
Exactly. Already a mess.
Right.
Right. But it gets messier. Shoulders is saying she didn't even know about this petition, then bam, supervised visits, DCF social workers, allegations flying left and right. She even sued her own lawyer at one point.
Wow, she was feeling the pressure, accusations, custody battles. The system feels rigged against her, I get it.
Okay, so let's break this down, legally speaking. Fundamental parental rights. That's the core issue she keeps hitting. What's that even mean? So parents don't automatically have the last word, even about their own kids.
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's been debated forever. The Supreme Court says, yeah, you've got a fundamental right to decide about your kids' care, custody, all that. But, and this is important, it's not a blank check.
Limits. There are always limits.
Always. And often it comes down to the child's well-being. That's the trump card. Problem is well-being, that can be subjective, open to interpretation. That's where DCF comes in. It's supposed to protect the kids, even if it means stepping into family business.
Okay, so how do Shoulders' accusations against these DCF workers play into all this? She claims they were saying false stuff about her mental health, harassing her about their action plan. Isn't that, like, crossing a line?
Right, so this is where qualified immunity rears its head. Basically, government folks, like those DCF workers, they have some protection from lawsuits, even if they messed up.
Hold on, even if those mistakes had real consequences for Shoulders and her kids.
Yeah, it's tough, but that's how it works sometimes. The court's view was, given the whole involuntary commitment thing, the guardianship petition from her own parents, DCF had reason to be worried about those kids.
So they were just doing their jobs, basically.
Pretty much. The court decided their actions made sense given what they knew. Shalders might have felt like her rights were ignored, but legally speaking, not so much.
And then there's this. She says a DCF worker just shows up at her place, no warning, starts going through her things, no warrant. That's got to be a privacy violation.
Sounds like it, right? Fourth Amendment protection from unreasonable searches. But here's the thing. It's not a slam dunk if those protections fully apply to social workers doing home visits. Courts are divided on that.
So where does that leave Shoulders?
Well, she never said in her complaint that she refused the visit, and because the law's fuzzy there, those social workers, probably safe under qualified immunity again.
And here's where it gets really interesting. She sues her own lawyer, Amanda Carpe. That's unusual. Why go after your own attorney?
Not your everyday move, that's for sure. See, she filed a Section 1983 claim against most of them, claiming they violated her constitutional rights acting under color of state law.
Meaning, basically, they were acting like an arm of the government.
Exactly. But Carpe, private attorney.
So, not acting for the state, even when representing someone against a state agency.
Bingo. That's why the judge tossed those claims out.
So final verdict, all Shoulders' claims dismissed. Case closed, everyone's happy.
Not so fast. Even the judge said this wasn't a win for anyone, really. It just shows how messy these situations get. Conflicting interests, legal gray areas, the sheer weight of these agencies.
If even the judge is saying it's not a win, what does that tell us?
Makes you think, right?
Yeah, it really makes you think about how these situations even happen, what it takes to navigate this world. And it's not just Gloria's story.
Right. It's like, how common is this?
That's what makes Margarita Perez's case so important, On the surface, it feels familiar. A mother fighting for her kids, the state's involved, this whole system that's supposed to protect, but sometimes it feels like it's working against you.
And with Margarita, we're talking early stages, right? We only have her initial complaint.
Yeah, it's not a full-blown trial yet, more like this is what she's saying happened.
Which is still huge, that first complaint. It's got to be clear, legally sound, can't just be telling your story. You got to lay out the legal arguments, make it make sense.
And that's where, from what I understand, Margarita might have missed the mark a bit. The judge basically told her, try again. What went wrong?
So there's this principle, fair notice. Basically, the other side, they got to know what they're up against. What are you accusing them of and why? Give them a fighting chance,
So you're saying it was too all over the place.
Mhm.
Not enough legal jargon, too much personal experience.
Let's just say it was a unique approach. Rambling a bit, details that didn't quite fit the legal stuff, even bringing up things like oaths of office.
Oaths of office. How does that even relate to a custody case?
That's the million-dollar question. Hard to tell just from the complaint. But in court, you got to be clear, you know? Too much extra stuff just confuses things. The judge probably wants her to focus, streamline those arguments, get to the heart of the custody issue.
And from what I gather, one of those issues is this thing called 11th Amendment immunity. That sounds intense. What is that?
Yeah, that's a biggie, especially going up against a state agency like DCF. Basically, states. They can't be sued in federal court unless they say so, which they rarely do, or if Congress made a specific law about it.
So if DCF's saying, nope, not being sued, and there's no special law about it, is Margarita just, what, out of luck?
It's a hurdle, a big one, but not a guaranteed loss. The judge didn't toss the whole case out. He's giving her another shot, a chance to fix the complaint, address those legal roadblocks.
So a fighting chance. Back to square one, but with a better map this time.
Exactly. She can sharpen her arguments, make her case even stronger. Who knows? She might even find a way around that 11th Amendment thing. It'll be interesting to see what she does.
It's like David versus Goliath. But instead of one David, it's two mothers, both facing their own Goliaths. And we're here watching, hoping they somehow find their way.
And that's the thing about these deep dives, right? We get into the nitty-gritty, the legal stuff. It's easy to forget there are real people at the heart of it all. Families fighting for their very existence.
It's heavy stuff. And with so much writing on it, you have to ask, are these systems even built to handle this? These incredibly human, emotional situations.
The million-dollar question right there.
It really makes you think about the human cost of all this,
Yeah.
The legal battles, the courtrooms. It's easy to forget there are real families caught in the middle.
Absolutely. And that's why these deep dives are so important, right? We're not just like picking apart laws. We're talking about real lives, real families, real struggles.
So, big picture time. We've gone deep on Gloria, on Margarita. What's the takeaway? What have we learned?
One thing that jumps out, family law, especially when you're talking about kids, it's rarely clear-cut. There's so much gray area, so much up for interpretation, and that's got to be tough for everyone involved.
And it's not just the law itself, is it? It's like Gloria and Margarita, they're up against this massive system, DCF, all this power.
It's a huge imbalance, right? You've got individuals often already struggling, going up against this like bureaucratic giant. The power to investigate, to intervene, to potentially upend your whole life, that's got to be intimidating.
And both these cases, they make you wonder, is the system that's supposed to protect children, sometimes, is it doing the opposite? Gloria felt like her rights were being trampled on, and Margarita, she's still jumping through hoops just to get her day in court.
It's that tension, right? Protecting kids, respecting parental rights, two things that should go hand in hand, but sometimes they clash. And when that happens, who gets to decide?
It's like walking a tightrope, trying to find that balance. And what happens when it feels impossible? When those two things seem completely at odds?
That's the million-dollar question, and there's no easy answer. Every family's different, every situation is unique. What's best for one child might not be best for another. It's complex.
It really makes you think, if these are the challenges we're facing now, what about the future? What can we learn from Gloria, from Margarita, to build a better system, a fairer system?
That's the goal, right? To take these stories, these struggles, and use them to make things better. Maybe it's more support for families in crisis. Maybe it's ensuring parents like Margarita have access to lawyers who can really fight for them. Maybe it's rethinking the whole system.
It's a lot to unpack. But that's the point of these deep dives, isn't it? To have these conversations, to challenge our assumptions, to keep asking those tough questions. Because at the end of the day, these aren't just legal cases. These are human stories. And we have a responsibility to listen, to learn, and to keep working towards a better, more just system for all families. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.